Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's customer webinar series on document redactions made easy with IntelliCloud. And I'm hoping that everybody can see my screen okay. My little preview isn't displaying, but if it is, we will go ahead and push through to the next slide. Today, we are going to learn about redactions and the different ways that you can apply them and utilize them within IntelliView GX, the desktop software, and IntelliCloud, the web software. And I'm also going to demo a live demo our automated redaction software that we offer. So in IntelliView GX, I will be showing you the page redactions, how to do full text redactions by performing a full text search, and how to do redactions during the indexing process. And then in IntelliCloud software, I will show you how to do page level redactions. And then the last, I'll be doing a demo of our automated redaction system that utilizes it, where you can build templates based on forms and other full text OCR search criteria that can be pushed through all of your records that are already in your system. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into our demo. And if anybody has any questions along the way in your webinar view, you should have a little question box where you can put in your questions or anything and send them through, and then I will read them live in this demo and answer those as we go. So let me escape out of my PowerPoint and I will hop over to the IntelliView GX. And I've already done a search and come into my folder and located a document that I wanted to perform a page level redaction on. And in this document, I'm going to focus on this demo social security number that I have here on this sample form. So when on the page, I'm first going to come up here to my image viewer toolbar, and I'm going to select my redaction icon here that kind of looks like with the paper with a little Sharpie on it. So when I select that, it'll put me into redactor mode and expand my redaction window with my tools and options. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my permission access level zone, or my PAL. And this represents kind of a level of security in IntelliView. And you're kind of telling this number is where I'm setting, how people, when they view these redactions in IntelliView, you're kind of saying what that number represents. So before we kind of put my number, let me give a quick explanation of what this PAL is in IntelliView. IntelliView utilizes a level of zones from 0 to 99. 99 being the highest, meaning you can see everything, 0 being the lowest, meaning you can see nothing. Most of users that log into IntelliView, we usually have them set at a 99 by default. And then the 0 usually represents like a public user, or if you have a public request and you need to send that document out. So if we set a redaction zone, for example, I'm going to use in this example at a 10, then that would mean that if I'm sending out to a user that is lower than the 10, then because it's lower than that 10 level, they would see that blacked out zone, or kind of that Sharpie view where it's blocked out that sensitive information. If I needed to see above that redaction zone and actually see that sensitive information, you would need to have your PAL set at a number higher than 10 so you can see above that redaction zone. So for the example, like I said, we'll use this 10. So I'm going to first, in my section, I'm going to use my left mouse button, hold it down, and kind of draw a box over the area that I need to hide. And once I let go of my mouse, it'll then place that box on that social security number that I'm using in this example. And you can see in this left corner, there's a little number in that 10 that I had created before. You can create multiple redaction zones at a time. So if there was another section you needed to block out, you can just draw a box over that section and just build as you need to. You can also, if you click within that box, you can resize that box if you need to, and you can even move it around if there's another section you'd rather place it. Or if you wanted to remove it, select that box, and then up here in my redaction controls, I could select this single red X that says remove selected when I hover over it, and then the next one to the right would remove everything if you wanted to start over. But we'll do just the remove selected. If you want to add a comment to that redaction, select that box up here in this little comment box in your redaction toolbar, type your comment, and then click this purple update selected triangle. Or if you want to apply them to all the redactions, just click the other purple triangle to update all. And that comment, what that does is if you're a user logged in who is a permission access level lower than that redaction zone, and you see it's blacked out and you're curious why, you can hover over that redaction box and it'll say, oh, social security number, or if you have another comment that you wanted to leave if people were curious as to why that was blocked out. And comments are completely optional, so you do not have to add those if you do not want to. Once you have all of your redactions set, come back to your redactor toolbar and click this green apply arrow, and then you'll get a confirmation message. Just click yes to apply it, and now your redaction's applied. Now the reason I can still see the information on this page is because I'm logged in as a user who has a permission access level higher than 10. So I can see the sensitive information here. But when you come to a page that has a redaction on it, you will have some visual indicators. One is up here in the page number scrolling box, and you'll see these numbers are inverted. So if I were to go to the next page, that's the regular view. If I go back, this is the page that you know has a redaction on it. And you also get a little indicator on the page over here. There's a little redactor icon that is displayed so you know which page has a redaction on it. When doing redactions, if you feel like redactions with NGX may be something you might be doing a lot of the time for this manual process, and instead of having to come to each page, you would rather have this redactor tool enabled all the time, there is an option. If I go over here to my folder view, portfolio options, and click on the word, and then that'll expand. If I go down here, kind of partway down, there's an option called Enable Redaction Mode After Page Displayed. If I click that, and then I'll refresh my page. Now every page I come to, I go down to the next one, this redactor toolbar will always be enabled. So that way, when I'm in, I'm ready to start applying my redactions for that day as needed. And if you don't want that option turned on, just leave it off because it's unchecked by default. And one other option that you may want to turn on is if you choose on the number that you want to utilize for your redactions, there is a way to have that number set every time so you don't have to come in and set it every time you log into IntelliView. That setting's going to be over here under View, Options. And then if I go to my Settings tab, down here in this Defaults Redaction Zone Permission Access Level section, just set this to the number you would like it to be at, and click OK. And then the next time you come back in, and then you enable that redaction, then that PAL will now be set to that number going forward. If you have a page level redaction, one of the things that you may need to do is when you have a public request, or you need to print out the document or pull it out of the system with that redaction option enabled, you'll go through your normal publishing process. So if I needed to publish this whole document, I'll right click and do publish. The key for having redactions where you have that black box displayed is over here in this alternate permission access levels box in the right hand corner in this little redaction zone. Now by default, this is always set to 0. So as long as this is set to 0 and it's lower than your redaction zone that you've set up, then you don't need to change anything. You'll always know when you publish out of this window, you will always see the redaction. If you need to publish and not see the redaction, just always make this higher than the redaction zone that you've set. But let's show this example here with a set it to 0. If I were to print, there's nothing else that I need to select. I can just come down here and click print, and it'll print out a copy of the original document and taking that redaction filter and burning them together. So that way you can't lift anything off of that redaction. So when it prints out, it's all black in that one section. And if you go, for example, to choose to do a PDF, nothing else that you need to select. Just have this redaction section set to 0 or lower than your redaction number. And then if we do our create PDF, it will pull up a document, and then this is the copy of the document that it pulls up. And then nothing can be lifted out from underneath this box because it's a copy of the original image and then the burn filter burned on top of it. So this is then good to go. So you can then print, email, save a PDF version of that redacted document. One other, so those are kind of your page level redactions. If you have full text turned on for your applications, there is a way that you can do a full text search within your folder and then redact based on that information that you search on. So I'm going to go to a new folder. And to first perform that, I'm going to go up here to my little find option, and this will expand and give me my search options. And I'm going to select full text contains. Down here, you would put the value that you're searching for. So if it's like anything that's typed can be searched on with the OCR. If you're looking, like if it's a letter and you're looking for a specific name, you can put in the first and last name and search for those highlighted words. If it's, a number, like a social security number, an address, or any sort of information that you're wanting to redact, put that criteria in here. And since on this example I have the lettering, I'm going to use the word date as an example. So once I have my criteria in here, I will click on my green run button, and this is going to show me all of the values found. So I could click on one just to see my highlighted example. So here it found date. So anything that you find specific, so in this scenario, it will redact, even though this is part of a fuller word, it would redact this little highlighted area. Let's go to this first one. So here we've got the word date selected. So if you found a name, it would highlight the full name. So once you have that highlight, and next we're going to go over here to the right of the find, there is a redact button. So if I click redact, then I will get this window. And this is going to be similar to the manual, where the first I'm going to put in the redaction zone that I want. And if you want to put a comment, it'll apply them across the board to every full text word that is found that matches your criteria. And then if I hit continue, it will then redact the document. And so if I click on my refresh button here, and then it'll show my little redactor icon. So if I click my redactor, then I can see the areas that have been redacted. So that one on the second page, and if I go back here and open my redactor again, then I can see all of the little redaction things. So the only downside with running that full text redaction is, depending on how your terms are found, you can't just remove a term from the search results at this time. But once you run it, you can always come back in and then select the ones that were wrong and just remove that selected and update your redactions. So you can always go back and do some cleanup. But if you're needing to redact things based on a name, social security number, or other sensitive information, this full text redaction, if it's enabled on your application, makes it a quick, run through and redact everything, so then you can publish out if you need to publish out that entire file. So that is a nice little manual, like a quicker option to have versus having to go through all of the individual pages. The next level of redaction that you can do within the IntelliView GX software is you can add redactions during your indexing process. So if you're indexing from within GX and you have some scanned documents added to your indexing list, so let's say if I'm ready to index this document, apply some attributes, and then if I want to redact, let's say in this example again, I wanted to hide the social security number. I'm going to come up here to my image viewer bar, and there is a similar page redactor icon. If I click on the icon, it'll turn green, saying that I'm in redaction mode. I will then draw my box, and then that has my default 10 in it. If you want to change that number, click in the box and then right click. And then you'll get a similar window in here if you wanted to change it to another number. And if you wanted to apply a comment, you can do the selected zone, and you can also add more zones as well. And when you're done adding your redactions, click the icon again, and you'll get a confirmation if you want to save the redactions. You can undo them if you need to start over, or if you're making an update where you're removing one, you can just keep existing redactions. But here we'll save the redactions, and I can still see this information because I'm above that redaction zone level. And then you can run a search for the folder or create the information for the new folder you need to apply it to. And this just hit your commit, and then that document will get indexed into the folder with those redactions added. If you need to remove redactions in the process of doing this, if you select the redaction, then the little arrow to the right, here's your remove options to remove the selected zone or remove all zones if you wanted to start over here. But that is redactions within the indexing. Let's now hop over to IntelliCloud View, our web version, or new website for IntelliView GX. And here I've come into, currently you can do page level redactions within IntelliCloud View. So if there's a particular page, just make sure to navigate to that page. Once you're on the page in the viewer, I'll click on this three-lined menu, and this will expand my page level options. I'm going to come down here to my redactions section. I will click on edit to begin that redactor process. And before I set anything here, I'm going to collapse this to begin drawing my redactions. And to get to where you can draw, click on this redact box word. Then you'll have some options here. I'm going to start by clicking on the filled rectangle. Come down to your image and draw where you want that box to be. When you have this box, you have some options here If you need to cancel, if you want to add a comment, you can select it, you can resize it, move it around. If you want to see through it, just click this little, and then that'll change the view of the redaction. Once you have, and you can apply multiple redactions as well. Once you have your redaction set in place on the document, come back to your menu, put in your permission access level, click on the Set button so it applies it to the selected one, or set it to all if you've done multiple redaction zones, and then click Save. And you'll get a little pop-up window saying that it's confirmed the save. And then if I right-click and then reload my web page and come back to that page, that redaction will be there, but we can't see it because we're at that higher access level. But that is how to add redactions in IntelliCloud View. One of the additional features that we have, or for if you wanted to do automated redacting, that software we have is called Automated Redaction, and this is what I have pulled up here now. And automated redaction, if this is something you want, we don't offer it out of the box with basic packages. There would be, this is an additional cost. But if you're curious about this redaction zone for your organization, you can send an email, or you can contact your account representative who you work with through Intellinetics, and then we can kind of begin the talks if this might be something you would be interested in. But before we get into that, let's kind of talk about how this works. So the way auto redaction works is it works with OCR, and down here with the sample document I've put in, it's already OCR the page that I have here. So this is where you're kind of building templates based on information. If you have a similar document, if it's a form and you're going to have like maybe sections you want redacted in the same place every single time. So like if you have a form that's maybe got a certain sensitive information in an area, you could use over here on this left side, I've got a fixed zone, and I can give it a label. And then this will be similar to my redactions where I'm just dragging my box over the area. And then if it's a form, and assuming it's always on the same page, I'll click Add. And then I can run this so I can have it show me where that is. And then it would be similar to your highlighting when you do your OCR search. And you can also set up fixed zones. And then let's add that. So there's what your fixed zone kind of in the template form would look like. And once you set up your templates, if it's based on a fixed zone, if you need to have it go based on, like, if there's certain words or things that you need redacted, you can implement those within pattern searches based on terms or names. And it would be similar to that manual full text redaction within GX, but applying this to, and you can have multiple templates. So depending on the forms that your organization may have, this way, this software, once we have all the templates enabled, we can then have it, streamlined through anything that you've already scanned. So it begins auto redacting within the software, those particular forms that you've kind of templated up. And that way it makes that redaction process way more easier. And you can still do manual redactions if you have the auto redaction turned on. And when you go into GX, you'll see your redactor icon. You will know if it was an auto redaction versus a manual redaction. So you'll have like a little indicator. But these forms, depending on, the patterns that you want to set up based on terms or proximity to different things, if you're needing redaction as a, like it's heavily needed for a lot of sensitive information, this is something that may be useful to your organization. But that setup with the auto redaction, it's pretty easy. And like I said, this would be an additional cost. But if you're just curious about some of those things, or you would like a further demo showing other types of forms, we can schedule that with your account rep that works with your organization. So you can see this in a bit of a closer detail. So that is auto redaction. So now let's move on to some Q&A and what I've shown, or if you would like me to go back and show a step again. And if you're on this webinar, if you're curious how to send in a question, in your webinar panel, you'll see a little question bubble. And then when you click that, it'll expand so you can put in your questions into the white box and then just click send. And then those I'll see on my side. And I will read those live on these last few minutes for this webinar. But if there's questions that you don't necessarily want to give through the webinar, you can always send an email into our support at intellinex.com, and we can answer through that email directly to you if you would rather a private conversation. But the question is now open, so if you want to ask any of those. Or if you have gotten everything that you needed through this, we will be posting this video up on our YouTube channel. So once we're closed off here, I'll have it up here within an hour or so. And we also do have documentation on these processes. So if on top of the video, if you would like, just a fresh copy, even if you've had IntelliView already, and you would like a fresh copy, we can, provide those to you as well. So just once again, send an email into support, or you can give a call in, and then we'll get your details and we'll send those over so that you can utilize those, or you can share those with your staff. I'll just wait about 1 more minute or so if there's any more questions. If nobody has any questions, you're free to leave this webinar, and we'll have this video up so you can always check it out later again on YouTube if you want to cycle back and just kind of see some of the steps we had gone through today in regards to redactions. But thank you for those that have been here, and if you don't have any questions, thank you for joining this webinar. And then if you have any other scenarios in regards to redactions, we're more than happy to answer those for you as well. But I'll hang out for just a couple more minutes on this webinar if there's any questions. Okay, we did have a question just come through about the permission, or the PAL levels, or permission access levels as we call them. So let me expand our redactor window. So the PALs are based on a system or a numbering system in IntelliView, 99 being the highest. You have full permissions to see everything, and IntelliView 0 being the lowest, meaning you don't have the ability to see anything. So based on those numbers, when you set a redaction zone, you're kind of looking at that as a number that when you have people who are lower than that number, you do not want them to view anything below that number as regards to sensitive data when you set up that redactor number. So if, in the example we had done earlier, if you set that redaction number at a 10, and I were to log in as a user at a level of 0, that area would be redacted to me and I wouldn't be able to see above it. But if I log in as a user at, say, 15, then I can see above that redaction zone because my number is higher than that PAL of 10 in this example. And that PAL is also utilized when you go to publish. So when you're looking at that redaction zone, it's also like saying, when I pull this document out, I want to be pulling that document out at the view of somebody lower than that redaction zone. But since it's by default, that's lower, then it'll always come out at the lower level. So, and I know it's a little bit confusing with those numbers, but once you have your number set and you pulling those out the way that you need them, then it gets a little bit easier once you've kind of done it a few times to understand those numbers. So I hope that explained a little bit better. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, then we will end the webinar here. Thank you again, everybody, for joining this webinar and learning a little bit more about our redactions if you've not been familiar with it. And we will have this up on our YouTube channel within a couple hours. But thank you again for being on this webinar. And we will have another webinar next month, but we will send another email out for what that topic will be about. And thank you again, everybody, for joining.